How is everything?
Good, man. Very good. How are you?
Everything is good. I'm tired. I had a concert last night, so did you. But
Yeah, I'm tired a little bit as well. I think I went to bed at 5 in the morning. So
I'm sorry that you had to get up so early.
no worries. I got a good sleep. I got a good sleep.
That's good. And how did the show go? First show of the tour. It's always complicated in certain ways. How did it go?
Really good. Really good. It's definitely the first show is a little bit of a trial show. You want to see how the set list flows, what felt weird, um, what worked, what didn't work. So after the show, we sat there for a good half an hour, just kind of discussing it, and we got some feedback from the fans and stuff as well. So there's going to be some tweaks, um, but overall, it went great. It felt good to play some new songs.
Cool. And how many new songs have you guys played on the that first night?
Uh, five, five new songs.
Okay. Good reception from the crowds.
Yeah, yeah, really good reception. I mean, those songs felt. I think for us too, when you play new stuff, it's exciting for us. You know, we've played a lot of these some of these other songs a lot of times. Um, so they're still fun to play, but you know how it is when you add new songs to the set list. Uh, there's a sense of like, oh fuck yeah, Um, it feels good. It
Yeah.
feels good.
And obviously for a for an artist, for a musician, when you make a record, you envision play those songs live. um do they, or these new songs, did they reflect what you envision in the studio but live? How did it work?
Yeah, yeah. It's always interesting taking songs from the studio and bringing them into a live situation because it's both very different worlds. I mean, in the studio, you don't really have any limitations. You can record 8 guitars on top of each other. That's no problem. But when we actually play the songs live, there's only two of us. So it's um, it's a tricky process, but Lars and I find it very fun actually. Just trying to figure out. Okay, so there's like a keyboard part and string part and like 4 guitar parts happening here. I'll do this and try to do this, and Lars, you got to do this and this at the same time, um, and then also sing the harmonies and stuff. So it's challenging, but we like that challenge.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
And just for curiosity's sake on my end, obviously people expect to hear the studio version. But for you as
yeah,
musicians, sometimes when you play live, you realize that if you change little thing on the song, it might work better. Did you guys do that much when you bring the studio songs into the live setting?
yeah. We did. And we had to experiment too. I mean, some things worked, some things didn't. Some parts on the record that are done on keyboards, so like synth sounds and stuff. We were trying to replicate through guitar tones. We really try not to use backing tracks is our thing.
Yeah.
Um, there's a few songs from the new record where, maybe we add a little bit of synth in the background because it's like pretty important for the song or whatever. But for the most part, we like to not to not use them, to not rely on them. Um, it just kind of keeps the, the essence of SOEN is kind of this live band, energetic,
Yeah.
and uh, we want to keep it that way as best as we can. So, so yeah, lots of experimentation happening with that sort of thing. Taking parts that were done on the strings or the keyboards and trying to do them on guitar, and in a way, it just makes the song. It's still the same, but it's just kind of a different texture, a live texture, if you will. So it's cool. Sometimes it really works, and you're like, oh, we should have done this on the record, or sometimes it doesn't, and but we're happy so far with how everything's sounding.
Yeah. And Memorial, you guys went back to the studio together because the previous record was done remotely, as far as I remember. I was to be together again to write and record instead of everyone being in their homes. I mean, it's comfortable to be at home, but when you write songs, you need to bounce back, I guess, with other people.
Yeah, that's a good question. For us, the good thing about Imperial is that we learned how to work quite efficiently remotely. So we can still sort of work this way now. Sharing files is very easy nowadays. Martin's kind of the core songwriter. He's kind of building the foundation of most of the songs. And but it was nice. I got to spend a lot of time last summer in Sweden during festival season. I still live in Canada, so it never really makes sense for me to fly back during festival season because we're playing shows like every weekend kind of thing. And so I stayed at Martin's for a good month, and that was nice for me to just be able to chill. And we were just working on these songs for like 8 hours a day because we knew that was the time to work on them. We had to really get that shit done then, because there was more tours coming, and it's hard. It's like you can do it on tour, you can work on music on tour, but it's difficult. I mean, everybody is focused on the shows, and then you think the next day you're gonna have time, but there's all this shit that pops up, and people are tired, and it's difficult. So we had most of the songs kind of written before whatever that last tour was. Is the American tour, and so we were able to kind of be together during that tour and finalize them in the best demo state that we possibly could, to make them, and then pretty much right when we got home from that tour, it was just recording. And so when we record, we're still kind of doing it remotely. Like I recorded all the guitar parts in Canada, just in my house. And same with Lars and Zlat, and then Martin and Joel, they actually spend the time in the studio to do the the drums and the vocals and the things that really need professionals. And then of course the guitars are sent to the studio, and they're reamped in the studio. And so it's good. We're able to do this kind of working remotely thing quite efficiently now, and it's it really helps accelerate the process for us.
Yeah. When you record at home, you use like those digital plugins and stuff. There is so handy these days, for anyone. You use that stuff to record, or you have like your own, big amps and heads and mics to connect guitar and all that.
No, I mean, nowadays, you're going to be sending the studio DI signals anyway. so that they can take those DI signals and reamp. So all you need is some sort of a reference sound. And plugins nowadays are so good. They sound so great. I mean, it would take me days and days to mic up an amp and make it sound as good as these plugins do. So for me, and it's just so easy. I mean, if I don't like this tone, it sounds like shit, I quickly just adjust some settings on the plugin, or I use a different amp on the plugin or whatever. And it's, you know, it's just incredibly fast, incredibly easy. And so it's cool. That way you can really get sort of maybe like a basis, like a reference sound of like how you kind of want the guitars to sound. Same with like my solos. It's like I can really hone in on like how much reverb and delay and all of that, how much gain and kind of stuff. So that when we send it to the to the producer, you know, he's got an idea of what I want it to sound like, and then he might change it a little bit to fit the mix and that kind of thing. So so it works really. It's very easy this way nowadays.
You know, because I was, you know, I was listening to some records from the 80s and early 90s from metal bands, and you know, one of the things I realized it's that there was two different sounds, one for the rhythm guitar and one for the solos, and sometimes they would be just so fucking different. You know, I don't know what was going through their heads, like to have such a different sound. And I don't know if it was, you know, whatever it was, the gain or something, or I don't know, but it was just such a big contrast that, you know, maybe back then sounded cool, but listening now, it's just like, why?
Yeah, I mean, it's like that stuff is all very subjective, you know, like to me, I fucking love the guitar sounds on the new record. I think the rhythm sounds, especially, they sound just fucking huge. And but then some people will say like, oh, they like the sound of the guitars better on this album or this album, even though I thought they sounded like shit. And that's the interesting thing about music, is the subjectivity of it all. And you know, you're not gonna like that stuff, but I'm sure somebody is begging for bands to go back to the 80s sound. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, the 80s sound, you know, it's good because it brings, you know, for me, because I grew up in that era, it brings memories, and, you know, people are attached to that. But, you know, sometimes you have to be realistic when it comes to production back then, because it wasn't that good in some bands, not every band, but in some bands. And one of the things with technology these days, it's, you don't have an excuse to sound bad.
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, if I hear a bad sounding record nowadays, it's like, Jesus, how it's almost impressive.
Yeah.
How did you manage to do this?
They did on purpose, probably. And you know, how long it's, you were saying you had that, you know, that month or so in Sweden with Martin to, you know, just to get those demos for the album done. How long did it take, the whole process from writing to finish recording your parts, or, you know, the whole band's part, to finish the Memorial record?
Typically what happens, I mean, we've kind of been on this streak of releasing albums like every 2 years, which is pretty intense, and not a lot of bands kind of keep up this pace. And it's yeah, you know, essentially it's like as soon as you release an album, you're working on the next one. So yeah, I mean, the entire process is probably around 2 years. You have to think about the fact that you know, when you record the album, I think we recorded, like I said, in December, from mid-December to about maybe mid-February, late February last year, or, you know, early this year. And so of course, from that point on, it takes time to get everything ready with the music videos and promotional strategies and all of the stuff with the label. And so yeah, it's about a 2-year process, but we always have to kind of get on our horse as soon as an album comes out. So even right now, it's like, if we want to think into the future, we got to start writing now. But we actually have a little bit of time off for the first time really since COVID, coming up after this tour. So probably take a week to just put the feet up finally, and then probably get back to work. Start writing more tunes, and because typically you got to write, like, I know, like Martin, he just goes crazy, and he'll have like 80 ideas, and you got to sift through all the trash and find parts that work with each other, and find all the golden nuggets and work from there.
Is it an interesting part of the songwriting part of it, where you're just fleshing out ideas and seeing what works, what doesn't work? Is it exciting, stressful, a bit of both? Did you guys get annoyed much?
It's exciting. It's just being creative and having to focus on, like, okay, I'm going to be creative for 8 hours today. Because, like, most of us musicians, you get that creative spark maybe during the day, pick up a guitar, you noodle around for, I don't know, whatever it is, half an hour, and then you put it down. That's enough. Gonna watch Netflix or something, But the exhausting thing is, like, okay, we're gonna do this for like 8 hours straight, and you're just listening and you're writing, and at the end of the day, you have no fucking idea what's good or bad anymore. We worked on this song for 8 hours. Is it actually worse than when we started working on it today? This kind of shit happens all the time. So it's that thing where it's like, if you knew that constantly working was always going to lead to let's say productivity, then that's good. But sometimes you're working like so hard and you're not getting anywhere. And so it's mentally kind of an exhausting thing. You go to bed and you got to wake up the next morning and start fresh. And so yeah, but I love the process. I mean, it's obviously it's so fun. It's so fun, and especially when you have those, when you get those golden nuggets and you think, oh, this is sounding sick. That's a good feeling.
Yeah. Do you have like on the album, this album, the previous record, any spontaneous moments? That first take that you did, and you said, like, it's not going to get any better than this.
Yeah, that happened quite a bit. This album, where especially on the ballads and stuff, where I'm just doing some like little guitar fills and that kind of thing. It's like, I know I want a guitar fill here, I'll just do one. And then over the course of time, you're listening to these demos and you just kind of start to get attached to these parts that you wrote, and you can't really imagine anything else there anymore. And so a lot of these little parts, we just ended up keeping them. But yeah, I mean, there's some cool kind of spontaneous moments on the record, especially like trying to figure out like transitions and stuff. Lars did this cool thing on what song was it? Icon, where he's doing like he's hitting harmonics and then he's like bending behind the nut so that one note like moves up but the other note doesn't, kind of thing, to like bring us into this new section and shit like that. This kind of stuff. It's
Magical moments.
It's cool. Yeah, really magical moments. When you're at those roadblocks and then you finally find the thing. Yeah.
Cool. And, you guys are playing 2 shows in Portugal, Porto and Lisbon. For those who haven't checked YouTube for videos of the tour shows, what can we expect from this memorial tour?
I mean, I think it's our strongest show yet. I mean, it's just kind of, with the new songs and added to the set list, it just kind of feels like bangers, 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 bangers. We've added a song on the set list that I think not a lot of people would anticipate. It's kind of a nice, quieter moment in the set. But bigger production, more lights, and everything is just kind of taken. We always want to bring it to the next level every tour. So yeah, I think it feels really good up there, and I hope the fans like it. I think they really will like it. Yeah.
Cool. And, we already talked about some of the plans after, this tour, maybe more songwriting and stuff. But what are the plans for 2024? Festival season? You're going to do festivals as well, or you're planning a different kind of a tour? What's in the books, if you can tell anything yet about next year?
Yeah, so we have a Scandinavian tour in, I think it's March, and then we have some shows booked in Latin America. So we'll be going down there, doing some shows there, and then what else do we got? We'll be doing a festival season and an American tour. So Canada, the US, and then Europe again. And from there, we're still trying to get into some other markets as well that we haven't been before. So things are still up in the air about that. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be another busy year for us.
And, before we go, obviously, we're talking about AI a lot these days, music. Some people are very afraid, others are not really worried about it. Do you think AI could ever replace or be better than a human kind of a band?
I mean, I'm sure with the capabilities of AI that the AI can sound better than a lot of music that comes out these days. I mean, when I think about like pop music, pop music is just human beings that are trying to be AI. Nowadays, they're just kind of churning music out of a factory, right? So you might as well just let a fucking computer do it at this point. If it's going to be the same chord progression and the same kind of melodies and shit like that. But no, I don't think AI could ever replace the human brain. And humans are always, and we're always sort of on the front lines of let's say musical discovery and creativity. And so AI might be able to get really good at replicating certain styles of music, but there's always going to be that thing where it's like, oh shit, we've never heard that before. Yeah. That's really cool, And I don't know, I mean, AI is scary, right? Because like I talk about it like, you know, there's no way it can do this shit. And every day it surprises me more.
Yeah.
You know,
I've seen a lot.
it's really insane.
Yeah.
But I think I think live music is very important. I think the connection you have with other human beings is very important. I think we should never lose sight of that. It would be, you know, if AI wrote the last SOEN album, I don't think people would be as attached to it, because I think people start to get attached to the personalities as well. You know, in a band, I'm very much this way. I mean, like I like bands. Bands are interesting to me. I mean, the dynamic bands have, the dynamic 4, 5, 6 people have, I don't think it's something like AI could replicate, you know, chemistry between people. So if you were to go to a SOEN show and it was just an AI playback of something, it's not going to be the same, you know. This computer can't possibly be feeling this solo, you know, like where does this solo come from? I mean, it's just bullshit.
It couldn't be like a Hendrix, you know, improvising, you know, a guitar solo.
Yeah.
That feeling. And, you know, talking about band chemistry, you know, it's, for me, it's when you listen to, you know, the Deep Purple album live, you know, live in Japan, or Made in Japan, that's the name of the album. It's just one of those records that it's freaking timeless. You know, the energy of the band back then, you know, it's just, I listen to that record, you know, every month, because it's, Deep Purple is just one of those bands. And, you know, that chemistry, that danger that band was, you know, that after you know the stories and you look at the stuff,
exactly,
you're just like, man, it's unbelievable. And I love that album so much. It's just one of those records that, you know, after, you know, 50 years, whatever, all the album is, it still sounds so good, you know, and no one can ever make that.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you said, it's timeless stuff. And I mean, kind of the essence of the music is just kind of elevated by knowing the backstories of things, by knowing the members. And yeah, it's, you know, like, you know, last night before the show, we were listening to Motley Crue, you know, to get us pumped for the show. And, you know, if AI wrote that shit, I wouldn't fucking care, right? Like, but it's just it's just like knowing that this was like a party band and they were fucking insane people and shit, you know. You have that attached to the music, and it makes it human. It makes it human because you feel like being an animal in that moment when you're listening to it, right? It's an interesting topic.
Yeah, and who has never listened to a Motley Crue song and doesn't want, like, probably throw a TV out of the window or something?
Exactly. I did. I threw the TV. We owe the last venue like 300 euros. So, you know, these things happen.
Well, at least TVs nowadays are lighter to carry anyway than back in the day. They were fucking monsters and they would make a lot of noise. Now these days, it's just like a flat monitor and it's just like
a piece of paper falling from the sky.
Right, Cody, thank you very much for your time. All the best for the tour. I'll see you in Lisbon. So
awesome.
You know, fingers crossed for everything to go well, and you know, I'll see you there. All right.
Awesome, man.
Have a great day, and thanks for getting up early for the interview. All right.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
Enjoy the tour and see you in Lisbon. All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.